staff to go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So we're just going to kind of pick up from where we left off prior to. We're now pivoting to our third and final discussion point for the evening, which is industrial development along Bullard between Van Buren and I-10. So this geography, this little portion of Bullard was specifically selected tonight so we could have this discussion and ensure we're on the same page with council, because there's been interest expressed to us through pre-apps and things of that nature for warehouse logistical type development along Bullard in between Van Buren and I-10. And so we just wanted to check in with council, have a conversation, seek some direction from you regarding your vision for this segment of the city as well.
Thank you. So this area is designated as business and commerce by the general plan, which allows for a variety of uses: commercial, lighter industrial, as well as some multifamily. And then Van Buren does have the TOD overlay, which encourages higher intensity employment or higher density residential. And then, of course, there's policies encouraging higher intensity employment and intensity in taller buildings along Interstate 10. In terms of zoning, and I'm going to focus east of Bullard Avenue. I think that's kind of our focus tonight. This area was zoned in 2007, and the development of Cancer Treatment Centers of America is what prompted the rezoning of this entire area. And, you know, the vision for that was that development like CTCA would surround the area. However, you know, and as you can imagine, when we were doing the CTCA deal, we were trying to move the zoning through quickly. And so there's a unique zoning condition on this property. The CTCA area was designated as final PAD, but the rest of the land is preliminary PAD. And we used to see that a lot, but we don't see it too often because we don't use that zoning too much anymore. And what that preliminary PAD means is just that it was a preliminary zoning designation. No matter what they want to develop, they do have to go through another zoning action because it's preliminary. They can't develop the property as anything really right now because they have to go through this final zoning. And basically our zoning ordinance was set up with this two-stage process that we've kind of gone away from, but back in 2007 we were using it. And one of the reasons we used it on this property back in 2007 is because we didn't get a real detailed vision from the applicant of what the whole area would be, and we were not in full agreement on what all the uses should be. So we compromised and designated the balance of the land as preliminary so we could work on it later. The preliminary zoning does allow warehousing and distribution uses. However, preliminary zoning per the zoning ordinance is only meant to be in place for 2 years. They're supposed to come in and get final zoning in those 2 years, but it doesn't automatically go away. It would take a council action to revert it, and staff hasn't come to council to ask to revert these zonings, especially since so many of these, you know, the recession in 2007, 8, 9 caused development delay on a lot of these properties. However, it should be noted that since that original approval, you know, we've adopted a new general plan, and then you'll hear Lori talk about some things such as we designated the foreign trade zones, which didn't include this property. We designated this area as a central business district, and then also there's been development changes such as our change in vision for Bullard Avenue south of Van Buren. Civic Square's moved to not too far away from this property. And that's part of the reason the preliminary PD isn't meant to be in place for more than 2 years, because a growing community like Goodyear changes over time.
Thank you. I am going to share a little bit with you about the current state of what's happening in industrial as well as what's happening in the office industry sector, just to give some perspective. of what is happening in Goodyear and what is happening surrounding us as well. So we have had, no surprise to anybody here, we've had a lot of industrial come into our community, as well as a lot of industrial speculative buildings being built. So the total square feet of industrial that has been constructed in 2020 is 6.4 million square feet. Currently under construction is an additional 4.5 million square feet. And we anticipate, based on what has come in and through the process or working through the process, we anticipate another 6 million square feet of industrial construction, most of that speculative buildings, to start construction in 2021. Right now, we have approximately, we're trying to get the square feet, apples to apples. So we have 4,800 acres, which equals 209 million square feet of either already zoned industrial property or in the general plan that is designated for industrial type uses. Now, as we all know, 100% of that is not covered. In other words, we don't cover 100% of an acre. So if we take about approximately a 40% coverage, the additional acreage can accommodate approximately 83 million additional square feet of industrial. And so that just sets the stage of where we stand today. Of course, as we all know, things change. Things can change rapidly, but this is where we are today. The bottom arrow is a little bit about some timelines of what happened. Why is industrial blossoming today in Goodyear? What has happened to make that blossom like it is today? And that was because of a lot of things that have happened through the action of the City Council. I would say it's very well planned and very well orchestrated, and a lot of those actions that some of you have been on the council for a while are very familiar with. And just let me give you an example. So, for example, Katie mentioned that south of Van Buren, we have designated a magnet foreign trade zone site. Well, there were 3 foreign trade zone sites that were designated in the city of Goodyear. We started the process in July of 2009, and it was finalized the next year in 2010. Again, we're prepping for what we want and what the desire is. If you remember what the economy was like in 2009, it was a really challenging time, not just for Goodyear, but the entire area. And so we wanted to use a variety of tools to help develop some of these properties. In 2011 and 2012, Sub-Zero activated the magnet site, and that was up over the PV 303. But again, it took us to take action in 2009 in order for that to take place. In 2014, the airport gateway infrastructure was completed, and that is the one, the industrial park just south of Van Buren that today is full, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So it was a lot of prep work ahead of time before we actually saw some of this coming out of the ground. And in 2015, there were a couple things happened. 2014, we had infrastructure going in there, and that was already designated as a foreign trade zone magnet site. And so you can see in 2018 to present why we're called the golden age of industrial development here in Goodyear. But again, it took about 5 or 6 years to get everything prepped. Next slide, please. And this is just a graphic of what has happened. So the top is 2015 when the infrastructure and the roadway was going in. To today, it is 100% sold out, and it has also spurred some industrial adjacent. But it was a 5 or 6 year, I would say, lag time before we started saying, okay, what do we need to spur the type of development in this already zoned industrial park? Michael Lewis was the first one that came into that park, and as you can see, it's been very highly successful. I'd like to talk a little bit about the office market. So this is what's happening in the industrial market in Goodyear today. Next slide, please. And this is a picture of our area where our city hall will be, and that is a picture of the rendering of some Class A office and our city hall. So why office? Why office in Goodyear? We know that office has a high wage. Most of the time we'll bring in high wage. It also helps us increase daytime population and diversifies the economy. As you all have shared with us, you said we don't want to get overly saturated in one sector, but we do want a well-rounded community. And so one of the reasons that you all entered into a public-private partnership was to help spur some of that development into Class A. And why should we do this in Goodyear? As you all know, we have a highly educated population. Currently, we have about 90% of our residents that are leaving Goodyear to work elsewhere because we don't have the type of office jobs that they are currently working at. And of course, Goodyear is highly accessible. And so when we are on some major thoroughfares or close by major thoroughfares, it makes sense to have some sort of an office development in that corridor. And so what's the demand? We talked to Greater Phoenix Economic Council, our partner, and did ask them for some information. We did some analysis internally and then asked them for some information. So in fiscal year 20, we got a variety of office leads from GPEC, and with more than 1 million square feet of office projects. That was, even through COVID, we know that they are still working on office projects. So in fiscal year 21, we've been provided with leads for more than 1 million square feet of office projects. Those leads have averaged 243 jobs per lead with an average income about $70,000. And again, even through COVID, in fiscal year 21, GPEC is currently working on 41 active office projects. And out of those 41 active office projects, 36, obviously the bulk of them, want existing office space. Since we have very little existing office space, currently today we have less than 6,500 square feet of contiguous available Class A office space. And again, the bulk of those that are looking, the bulk of the companies, even through COVID, are looking for existing Class A office space. So we are not, we have limited product, and we certainly have limited places to put them. Even though we've been proposing this particular project for them, we said, you know, we'll be ready in 2022. They want to be in and up and running quicker than that. The other good news, I think, for us is because we have a developer who's willing to invest in speculative Class A office, it really gives the market confidence. It shows that somebody is willing to put up significant amount of dollars, and it shows that there's confidence in the Goodyear market for Class A office demand. Next slide. This particular slide, I just wanted to share with you what has happened, and you all know this. I'm trying to just put together a synopsis for you. Currently, the market in the West Valley, not just in Goodyear, but in the West Valley, we have a lower vacancy rate than, for example, the downtown Phoenix area. So that tells us in the West Valley there is certainly a need for office. We know that there has been a lot of demand, particularly for medical office space. And we have had new construction in Australia Women's Health Center, new construction with Adelante, DaVita, Southwest Kidney. Even the Abrazo West Campus has expanded, and the Mountain Park Health Center has done significant expansion in the last 12 months. Goodyear still needs office space. It needs medical office space. And as you all certainly know and understand and pointed out previously in our previous work session, we certainly need more retail. We are a fast-growing community, and next slide, please. Thank you. We know that there's demand. We need there's been demand for office and medical office space. And as a matter of fact, we know and understand that demand because we've had developers purchasing existing building and doing adaptive reuse. In other words, these buildings that are up there, the Palm Valley Cinema, the former Maytag showroom, and the furniture store that used to be a furniture store right on Litchfield, we've had developers purchase those properties and do an adaptive reuse to use it for another type of occupancy. And the other interesting thing is we continue to work with several developers on additional spec medical office space. Next slide, please. You know, there's a couple questions, at least in our mind, when we were pulling together this presentation that said, where else can office go or medical office go that is highly visible, that is meant to be dense employment centers, that has the capability to not just build office or medical office, but also have amenities and a lot of different compatible uses. This is one of those areas that we have identified for that. We know it's a very health-centric area just simply because CTCA, Cancer Treatment Centers of America, is there. And we also know that a lot of families come into Goodyear so that their loved ones can be treated there. And we do have them staying at some of our hotels. Next slide, please. The previous geographical area that we showed around CTCA is approximately 225 acres. And I want to just give this to you as a comparison of what's happening in Gilbert right now. That's Gilbert Rivulon, and you all may have heard about that. This particular piece of development or property is 250 acres, so very similar to the property surrounding CTCA. And it broke ground in 2014. The goal was to have target 6,500 highway jobs at full employment. Again, a 250-acre master plan community. It currently has 800,000 square feet already built of Class A office space. It also has, very interestingly enough, on one of the frontage, it has some high-end luxury car dealers there, but also has some other amenities, not just for the office users, but for any residents in Goodyear who want to go to some of the restaurants that are around there. At full build-out, it is anticipated to be approximately 3 million square feet and have, again, target high-end jobs. Next slide, please. This will really end my portion and would love to hear from you. I'm going to turn it back over to Christopher on what your vision is for this area, because we certainly want to market the area and develop it into what you all would like to see there. Again, just giving you some perspective of where we are today, where the demand is today, and where we see the demand going tomorrow.
Comments, Colin? Brandon?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
So-
And did I interrupt something?
N-
I'm so
yeah,
used, you're
Just the
so
last,
used to me.
just a
Yes.
question. It's quite all right. Thank you very much.
All right, go ahead.
So thank you, Lori, for the information and the vision there around CTCA. And so, again, we want to have a touch point with council to ensure that you're supportive of our approach of having this Bullard area, primarily on the east side, as Katie pointed out, as developing as something other than big box warehouse logistic type development, and hopefully something more akin to the medical tech office corridor that Lori was describing.
Before we start, is all that land still belong to part of that, to Cancer Treatments of America? So they don't own anything on,
They do own a portion of that, yes.
Go up to the freeway.
yeah.
Yeah, they own a portion of it. This is not a single ownership. There are several different owners, but CTCA is certainly one of the owners of a portion of it.
Are they thinking about developing or having someone else develop or selling it? Or, I mean, do we hear any gossip on the street?
We actually have been talking to CTCA.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'd call it gossip, but certainly they would love to see something surround their property that would be an amenity to their patients and the families that are coming there, and also that would be supportive and complementary of what they're doing currently there. That is what they would like to see on their piece of property. And they have said, and certainly they're the property owners, and I certainly understand that. They said, we don't want just anything, we want something special there. And so we're not looking for, a gas station, for example. That would not be what we would think would be compatible to our operations. We'd like something that is more accessible to our patients and their families, and something that would support what they're doing.
It's interesting because at one time they talked about, convention center is the wrong words, but
Yeah.
they wanted something that we could have meetings at, and they wanted things for their medical side that could put lectures and things like that in. So have they given up on that? Of course, you can't tell secrets, and I'm not going to ask you this, but you're talking about that area where.
Yes. They have a lot of different things that they've talked about putting there, but it's all been complementary to what is currently there and what their current operations
Okay.
are.
All right. That helps me explain. Yeah, Molly?
So I just want to get it clear in my head that you're talking about the acreage between cancer treatment centers and Rudy's Barbecue on that side? Or are you talking about cancer treatment centers to Bullard, but not across Bullard, just to Bullard?
Yeah, we're talking about, what I'm talking about is the entire 225 acres that ring Cancer Treatment Center of America, which is up on the map right there. So we're talking about both sides, the east side of Bullard as well as the west side of Litchfield.
We're looking for council direction.
Yeah,
And
I get it.
vision for the whole area, but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, I believe CTCA owns this portion. And
That's by Rudy's. That's where
Yeah.
they have
So-
their garden right now.
yes.
Yeah.
And then this area here from Bullard Avenue, between CTCA and Bullard Avenue, this is owned by a single developer.
So remember too, that on 143rd Avenue, which is right on that corner where you turn in to go into the back way of CTCA, where I go in and out of the kitchen, is going to be our fire station. So we've got our fire station there. So, and beside the fire station, we have the DMV place. And so then, seriously, I mean, on the other side, if you put in a big box, whatever, it wouldn't have anything to do with CTCA side, really, because they've already got this other stuff, and that's not compatible at all to what they do or how they do it. And we can't put a bunch of medical offices around them because they would be in direct competition to CTCA, I would think. And I don't think that they think that's what their patients and their families would want to go to. So they're thinking more of perhaps restaurants or not a bowling alley, but I mean, but things that they can actually do something interactive on their side. And I really don't have an answer for you because I know that land's been vacant for as long as I've lived here. And I would like to see something there, but I don't know that we need to save that land to fulfill CTCA's dream when they can't even do their side.
Mayor and
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell, I'd like to clarify the ownership of the property,
Okay.
and I'm going to
appreciate that.
have Harry Paxton clarify the property ownership.
Yeah, to just give you a little bit of a quick history.
Yeah.
The CTCA site where the hospital is 25 acres. That was their original purchase.
Right.
Then they purchased the corner, about 40 acres, you're aware of, Litchfield, over to their site. And then they made another purchase where they have the pond at.
Mm-hmm.
And then essentially that 143rd cul-de-sac there, essentially that area all the way along Celebrate Lifeway over to to Bullard Avenue.
They own.
They own. They don't own immediately on the freeway.
No, they don't
at the
own that corner.
And they don't own
Yeah.
south of Celebrate Lifeway. That is the EJM development.
Okay,
So
yeah.
just wanted to make sure you understand the ownership there. I believe, Katie, if I'm correct, that southwest corner of I-10 and Litchfield Road has final zoning for office and retail. So that one already is. The other property that we're talking about is the preliminary PAD.
Yeah, I sat on one of their boards, so I'm familiar with all the fingers and what, but I don't know what they're trying to do with it, but I don't know. So,
Brandon? Oh, I'm sorry.
gosh, I'm curious to hear what everybody else has to say.
Brandon?
I'm okay with, I know we're not talking about the west side, but west side makes sense in between the two, the hot sauce factory and the pretzel factory, to have a like user on that side. But I think this side, like I said, there's only a very small portion of I-10 real estate that Goodyear even has, being so narrow. So I've always envisioned this being something like a office type user here. I know at one point, even potentially entertainment, because I know CTCA was even thinking about some kind of competitor to Topgolf at one point that was going to be here, and they were like one vote away from making that happen. So I've always thought this would be a special piece that would be higher end, that would be office, medical, or some sort of entertainment in that area. I'd rather not see large box warehouses or industrial. I would not prefer that. I mean, I don't know, I guess we'd do one at a time, but I'd not prefer that kind of user to be there. I'd rather have office or like medical, not competitors to CTCA. That wouldn't make any sense, cancer, but things that go along with the uses of the medical there as well. It seems like all our medical users like to be along McDowell right now because it kind of goes along, but I would like to see, those kind of office type uses or entertainment type uses there. So that's what I think.
Laura?
I believe we have some office north of I-10 on Bullard over by the two hotels. I believe there will be a law firm was building an office, and then across the street from that, in that mixed use, there will be some office space. So that's sort of like a entryway for that corridor. I'm with Brandon. I think that is a special piece of property that fronts I-10. I think the potential for that to become something really special. I guess this may be even where the word patience might be used in saying, I think we can get some good users there. What I think is special about south of Van Buren, our tech center, is that we branded it and we put markers and we've got landscaping it so it doesn't look like every other industrial park. So I think for south of I-10 or south of Van Buren, we've done a great job. But I would envision the research medical office, something special for that property.
Sherry?
I think I agree with what everyone said. I think that's probably a good play for that land. And maybe we need to kind of keep up with those landowners. It sounds like you guys are going back out and kind of touching base to find out what they're doing, because maybe they need some prodding from us or some more, I don't know, because it's like Wally said, it's been sitting there for so long.
Yeah.
But you just don't want to put anything on it either. So I agree with Laura and Brandon and everyone that I think that's, it'd be nice to get something along with we were saying in that area. But I think we got to kind of figure out what those landowners, what is their intention? Or do they want to hold it for 50 years? Or, what is their intention? I guess that's what we need to kind of figure out too.
Mayor and Councilmember Loretano, Christopher had alluded to some of that. One of the property owners certainly has been getting approached by some big box cross-dock facilities, which is why we're here to discuss that today. And I don't want to speak for Christopher, but that is what they're inquiring about. And so
CTCA property or across the street?
EJM.
If I Again, was on this parcel of property between Bullard and ADOT. This is the ADOT office.
Oh, yeah.
This is where the new fire station is getting constructed. So it was a facility located here.
And it would face Kick-Ass Barbecue or Kick-Ass Hot Sauce Place. That's
So
farther
it's a little
south.
further
No, that's
south.
right when you come off of Celebrate Way, you run right into that jackass, that donkey.
Oh, yeah. And so, as Katie was just pointing out, that they would also like to develop that same methodology, the cross-dock warehouse type projects, up and down Bullard to I-10. So that's one of the reasons that we're having a conversation with you tonight, is to make
Yeah.
sure that we're all have, a common footing.
Well, maybe they need our assistance to kind of say that's not really where we're thinking.
Well, have you ever thought a cluster of medical? Because what Wally says about cancer treatments, I disagree. There are so many, fingers off medicine
No, that's right.
that even the patients that are in there, maybe a special eye problem, they're suffering from cancer, but they got, so there's so much. And, I thought we were getting kind of a cluster over by Brazo, and I was real thrilled about it. But I think that that's what this needs. And with a Class A office building, that would certainly start the smaller medical. And I think we should go for it and block what's looking at it. It's not effective for there. We've got the data centers, which are really more sophisticated, right? When you have to stop and think about it. No, I think we've got a chance of doing something big with this. And I think because we have an anchor, which is cancer treatments, usually, right, they say it takes an anchor to attract all that. Well, we've got it right there. So I don't think we should waste that. And I think we should go full forward with that. Joe?
The sad part about it, I don't know, you've probably been talking to them. I got the feeling that they're going through some type of transformation over there anyway, as far as mergers or whatever. I don't know what all the finances is, but they're going through something over there. But there's nothing for the patients in that area to do. I know there was a time when the cancer patients like to go to the, what was it, Fry's? They would take a ride down to Fry's with it. Some of it was in walking. They'll get some food or get some things to, but that now is what Goodwill. So if you look around that area, there's nothing for those cancer patients to do. And trust me, their place in there that they call a cafeteria really isn't that great. So, I've been there. Okay. This is my personal opinion. So, it would be nice if there was some things there for the patients, to do. And I don't know what that answer is. I don't know what cancer treatment centers would like to see there for the patients to do. I know medical is always great to have those clusters. I agree with you there, Mayor. But it would be nice if somewhere close by there was something for them to do. You know what I mean? Especially.
To a Class A office building with the facility down the main level.
Yeah, I mean,
with
if it's
a
just something,
or
it would
snack
be nice
bar.
for them, for
Yeah, I
something to
think
do.
that- Yeah, you
Yeah,
don't
little
have
shops
to.
or something, for them, something where they can take their worries and
Yeah.
go close by and maybe a little shop or whatever the case may be. That would be kind of nice for the patients. I'm sure it would perk them up. Yeah, just to get out.
I'm surprised Starbucks isn't on one of those corners.
Mayor,
Yes.
Really?
Bill's on there.
Bill?
Yes, Bill?
okay, sorry, everyone's fading in and out on volume, so it was hard to tell if you were.
That's right. So am
Am
I,
I free
Bill.
to
Don't
speak?
worry about it.
Am I free to speak?
Yes.
Okay. So, just in the last few minutes, we've spent a great deal of time talking singularly about the Cancer Treatment Center's property, which is great, but it's their property. So if they don't want to put an office building in there and they want to put in a walking park, a stone garden or something, that, I guess is their call. And if they want to do that, are we going to tell them no? So we've been, we walk, I think, a very dangerous road when we start dictating to any property owner what they should do on it. Are there things that we don't want there? Probably. But I just kind of collectively look at that. I've got a few questions just generically because the beginning of this presentation started out with, this industrial, piece. So, just an observation that, keeping in mind that not all industrial is bad, much like not all multifamily is bad. Internet fulfillment centers, which are a revenue source for us, is an industrial users. I think, and Christopher, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think data centers are also classified as industrial, are they not?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Stipp, I didn't quite hear your question, but yes, data centers are considered industrial.
So, and we're getting through that, and a semiconductor manufacturing facility would also be industrial, would it not?
Yes.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So we're looking at opportunities in a classification that we're kind of stamping with a not industrial, and there's degrees of industrial, there's degrees of multifamily, so I know staff wants to walk away with, well, council said never industrial or not this, that much like the patience thing, I think collectively we've got to just be careful on. As far as the Class A office space, we've not heard from anybody about really the region's capacity to sustain a lot of Class A office space. We see high-rise development in Tempe of a lot of Class A office space. We obviously have downtown Phoenix. So where is that going to go? How is the fulfillment of the Civic Square Class A office space going? We're not seeing the construction of the Class A, or it may have been even B office space that's supposed to go north of I-10 and east of Bullard, as far as the filling of that space. So we have this dream of what Class A office space should be, but the reality may be something completely different. So I, from my perspective, I hope that staff doesn't walk away with concrete, that they walk away with kind of some mud. And mud hardens over time, but it can also be watered back down and changed into something else. I know it's a crummy analogy, but that's kind of where I'm at. And the last question that I have is really about the smaller office parks. I think of the office space across from the community park, across from the fire station off of Litchfield. There's one that went up behind just west of Litchfield off Thomas that was zoned that way. One building went up and then nothing else went. We've got a lot of vacancy in those places along Bullard, at Indian School, and off of McDowell at 145th,
I think by the bank.
I think.
By the bank, the corner of the bank.
How are we at with occupancy in those places when we start having this dream of a lot of office space?
I will say, Bill, on that office space, it is a different inside. All right. Mayor Schoaf had his office in that area, and I've been to several of them. And so the buildings themselves inside could be something, but they all need to be redone and modernized and enlarged. And so I would, I'm not against what you said. I think we have a combination of things that we're going to have to do. But there are reasons for the vacancies in some of those places. It's not just because we can't get the people, we can't get the businesses. But if you go to where I have my eyes done, I mean, you go in there and it's not going to, rent at a high rate and cost because it just isn't. The building could be redone. The outside looks great, but it's inadequate for anything that we would call an office space that would be probably one that would be continuously rented for a developer. But I think it's going to take a combination. So I'm not against what you're saying about industry, but I think we have to be smart in our choices so we don't look like the old-fashioned industry, and can be a little bit more sophisticated and take some other opportunities.
Mayor, I think that's exactly what I'm trying to say is not all industrial is bad. Not everything has to be Class A. We can drive a lot of that look and feel for our community by design standards. I think we're saying the same thing. We're probably just saying it entirely differently. But I agree with we've got places that Class A office space probably would work better. Certainly around Civic Square, certainly that area, McDowell, between McDowell and I-10, from Bullard to 145th, or Bullard to, 145th, that general area around Lifetime Fitness, et cetera. We've got places that would work, but we have to be open to the suggestion by the people that own the property, or B, the people that are going to pay and develop it. That's all I'm saying. And I'm done. Thank you for listening.
Well, I guess looking at it's probably very difficult for you. But when, in my view, when businesses come in or, developers want to do something, there's nothing wrong with pushing hard toward one that might fit in that area better. And if you look at industry, you got to look at what type of industry they want to put in there. And again, it's kind of limited in traffic and large trucks. So I think we have to be careful. And I know we can't tell them what to do, but we do have some handle on it. And the thing of it is, I think everybody wants to be successful. So, we try to recommend what we feel or the city feels might be more successful for them, because we want, like we say, want every business to succeed. So it is a mixed bag, and I don't know how much information you really got from us tonight. You didn't get a definite answer from us, but we did give you enough to come back on something.
Yeah. Mayor, Council, thank you for entertaining us with this conversation and letting us be a part of it. If I can just kind of summarize my notes on this portion here, and please correct me if I misspeak, but generally it sounded as if council had a vision for, if it is industrial, the high design industrial, but really would be more preferred to see office, something complementary to CTCA, things of that nature, but be flexible and open to an industrial project, and then have high design standards.
Because we really don't have a cluster in that. If you look at the office building you show on Litchfield and McDowell, the really super big one, that's it. We really don't have anything in our city that it is a more upscale. We'll bring the dentists in, bring the doctors in, and things like that. So I'm done. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to see if we don't get an office building.
Can we talk into the mics? I'm sorry, Bill's having a little bit of trouble hearing us. So if we could talk into the mics for him, he just let me know.
I was leaning back in the chair, being lazy.
I didn't hear what she said, but I.
No, you have to
assume
get
she told me
closer to
she
the
said.
microphone. Yeah.
I said that I am not necessarily in favor of a high-rise office building, but I think we need to take every proposal to us seriously and figure out if in fact it can work, or if not, suggest something else. They can always take their chance to come before council too, and we can always say no. I mean, I hate to, like I say, they may go somewhere else. But if CTCA is concerned about or wanting us to be the first out of the gate to build something, I don't know that I really like that scenario. Other than they might have come to you and I don't know.
What do you
if they-
mean, what did they ask for
Well,
something?
did they come to us and say this is what they wanted, or did we go to them? I mean, how did they get into this equation? Seriously.
Mayor Lord and Councilmember Campbell, we always keep in touch with our property owners, and so we always have a conversation with them. And certainly, we want to make sure we understand what their vision is and how we can help work with them to make that vision move forward. And so that's how we started that conversation with them. But even before I came on board, the economic development staff was in continuous contact with CTCA about their operations and how they're doing and how we might support them. So all of our, a lot of our property owners, we are in a continuous conversation with them. And that's, when you say, how did we get started, it wasn't we picked up the phone one day, but we are always building those relationships.
Well, I can understand that. I just want us to, we may not be able to get something that they really want on that property either. Do we leave it empty forever? I mean, what do we do? I know that's what you want us to tell you what to do, but I can't tell you what to do because I really don't know. Unless we know what is specifically being proposed, how can we make a judgment?
So what we were asking is we've had some pre-apps for cross-dock logistical warehouse
Like
development.
UPS?
We don't know the user.
across
We
the-
don't know
is
the
that across
user.
the-
Yes,
Okay,
something
then-
like that. The
yeah.
building like that,
Okay.
yes. We don't know users because there haven't been any users identified. These were speculative industrial developers who were seeking to come in to talk to us about cross-dock facilities there. So we, before we,
And we're talking about the same business that's on Camelback. It's coming on Camelback. Is that correct?
so it's
Not the
businesses
same company,
like that.
Like that, yes,
Buildings
right,
like
sure.
that, or
Sure.
frankly, the Nike building is a cross-dock warehouse,
Sure.
or,
Mhm.
things like that are all cross-dock
Well,
warehouses.
hopefully you can show them other property in Goodyear that's available and get them
Correct,
going
correct.
that way.
Correct,
And then they're still staying in Goodyear.
correct.
Good, okay. Wow.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, Bill?
Mayor, if I can jump in and ask Christopher this question.
Sure, go
Is
ahead.
Chewy.com, which is an internet fulfillment, is that considered a cross-dock?
Yes, sir.
And that's a great building.
So here we have
Yeah.
this quote-unquote single definition. Chewy.com is a revenue generator for the city, where UPS is simply a transfer of product back and forth, and they're both exactly the same. So again, we say no cross-dock, but we could be turning away a revenue source. So I think that becomes the $10,000 question is how do we clarify that and give the staff enough direction? So I think to Wally's point, we probably need to have some more information before we give a blanket yes or no.
Mayor, may I make a comment?
Yes.
And I think to that point, the pre-app on this property was for a speculative crosstalk. So you'd be in the position of having to approve that land use without knowing who that end user might be. So this is certainly a very complicated,
can see.
land use conversation. We appreciate the time that you've taken to have it with us tonight.
I appreciate that information. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, before we close out tonight, if you wouldn't mind indulging me, I think it's the previous conversation, slide 12, with the 27 commercial corners. I know we were talking about it, and then we had to adjourn to go to the regular meeting. But there are those 4 corners on Yuma and Estrella Parkway that there was once a vision for. And so are we looking at those corners sort of comprehensively, or are we just looking at them sort of like, well, each one is a separate entity? Because it had a vision before, and are we looking at it? I'm just curious how we're viewing that.
So, Mayor, Council Member Kano, thank you for the question. We had, after Civic Square became real and has legs and is moving forward definitively, we had reached out to the property owner there because they were a partner with the city in terms of establishing the city center vision and so forth, which I know the mayor and council member Loretano certainly know a whole lot more about that than I do from their previous years and effort. I've heard council member Loretano say her oldest daughter or youngest daughter is now, yeah, anyway. The point being is that we had proactively reached out to them to express an opportunity to partner with them to re-envision that area, maybe figure out what they wanted to see, how it could benefit the city, and how we could work together to make that happen. We did reach out, had those conversations, spoke with them and their legal representation, and right now that ball is sort of in their court. We have made that offer, and I think they're working through some different property ownership transitions and things of that nature. But we have made contact with them about that.
Okay, I wondered, because it looks to be a very strategic corner as well. So big things can happen there, I'm sure. Thank you.
All right, is the conversation pretty finished? I know you did really get a long line of ideas, and so you're still going to have to do your research, and who knows? You've been good at everything else you've done. I have confidence in all of you, so.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. I closed the book on myself, so. All right, this ends the meeting. I'm just looking to see what the next meeting will be. Maybe the city clerk can tell us.
On February 1st, it'll be a work session beginning at 5 p.m.
I'm sorry, what?
It'll be a work session on February 1st beginning at 5 p.m.
Great, thank you very much. With no other business, this meeting's adjourned.